decided to give a try to a pre-construction agreement, to end the practice of free estimates. My experience has been far more positive than I would have imagined.
This is the Construction Leading Edge podcast from constructionleadingedge.com and buildermasterclass.com. My name is Todd DeWalt. It's my job to help you eliminate chaos and maximize profit. And here's what you're going to get in this podcast episode. This is an interview with Travis Gardner, owner of Gardner Construction Corp in Virginia. And here's what you're going to learn about. You're going to learn about how Travis ended the practice of doing free estimates recently, the surprising response from the first prospect that he pitched a pre-construction services agreement to, how he was surprised by their response. You'll hear about how much he's collected in the first month doing this. There's one specific unexpected side effect to his business from this shift. And you'll also hear, this is pretty insightful, you'll hear about how getting to a no, an NO, getting a quick no from a prospect is now a win for Travis. This is a great interview. This has been a real transformation for Travis's business, and I hope you listen to it and I hope you take action. There are a couple of resources I want to share with you before we get into that interview. LL Flooring is one of America's largest specialty retailers of hard surface flooring. They understand your floor is the foundation of your home style. That's why they offer over 400 floors, all at the best value, including Bella Wood hardwood floors, backed by a transferable 100-year warranty. Visit one of their over 400 stores to find the right hardwood, waterproof vinyl, laminate, bamboo, or tile flooring for your style. Their flooring experts will guide you every step of the way, from finding the perfect floor for your project to arranging safe, professional installation. LL Flooring has a variety of digital tools to help you transform your home. Use their Floor Finder tool to discover options for your project, and then use Picture It, their online visualizer, to see your new floor in your space before you install. For store locations, style advice, and more, visit llflooring.com/pro. These are the floors homes are built on. llflooring.com/pro. Let me ask you two questions. How many hours did you waste in the last month doing free estimates? And then how many profit bleeds, like rework, lost time, schedule delays, and even uncomfortable conversations have you had in the last month because of free estimates? Look, a growing number of builders, remodelers, and commercial general contractors are getting paid to do pre-construction planning and estimating. They're getting paid for their time. They're wasting less time, maybe even no time, with tire kickers. And they're cutting out a lot of the profit bleeds that are caused by free estimates. But what could I possibly say to a potential customer to get them to pay me for an estimate when everybody else does them for free? If you're wondering that, there are 3 specific questions that you can ask on your next appointment to get your prospect, and maybe even get yourself, to see that it's in their best interest to pay you for pre-construction services. Don't send out another free estimate until you learn these 3 questions. Go get your free training video with those 3 questions over at buildermasterclass.com/script. That's buildermasterclass.com/script. All right, here we go. Let's jump into my interview with Travis Gardner from Gardner Construction Corp. Enjoy.
Yeah, sure. So my name's Travis Gardner. I am the owner of Gardner Construction Corporation in Richmond, Virginia. We specialize in custom building and primarily on renovations and additions of historic homes. So our typical project size is $250,000 up. We've done projects of $2.5 or $3 million. Probably most of our projects are in the $500,000 price range.
So let's talk about the very first project that you used the pre-construction agreement process on. What type of project was it? How big was it? And just to give folks a general idea of the scale and nature of the project.
We had a customer approach us who lives in a house, really a beautiful home, nice part of town, wanted to put a pergola in her backyard. And she lives in between 2 houses where we've done, really nice sized projects. She's referred by good clients. And so I went to meet with her. Of course, anybody who calls me in that situation, I'm absolutely gonna meet with them. But ultimately it's a pergola, and that's the kind of thing, and that for the most part, it just feels like, oh man, I'm going to spend all this time to really give her any price that means anything. I've got to essentially plan the whole project out. And, there are a lot of questions. Does she want to use rough cut cedar? Are we doing it with treated? Is there going to be a cover? Are we going to have masonry piers? Is it going to tie in with her patio? I really kind of put off, even, I'm embarrassed to say, but I put off getting back to her for a few days, and it was sort of sitting out here on my to-do list. And then I sat down, I put together a really rough, quick budget, but I mean, a detailed budget using CoConstruct, put that together and sent it to her and said, here it is. And by the way, this is just my preliminary budget. It's going to be $3,500 in pre-construction for us to take this, actually draw the pergola so that you know exactly what you're getting. I'll price everything out. We'll give you a completely transparent budget. And if you decide to move forward, we'll be delighted to fit this into some larger things we have. If not, then, and if you do move forward, of that 3,500, I think we told her we give her $1,000 back, 2,000. We told her we give her $2,000 back toward her project. It was the first one. We were kind of playing with that. If you don't, you've lost $3,500. I sent it to her through CoConstruct, and amazingly, she's an older client, and I thought, I sent her through CoConstruct as a proposal, and I waited a few hours, and then I felt embarrassed because I called her to say, I've sent this proposal. I had a hard copy printed. I was going to drop it off, and I called her to say, I sent this, and she said, oh, I already signed it. I logged in. She's actually my first client who's actually signed a proposal through CoConstruct without me sitting next to them.
Wow.
Say, this is the next step of how you do that. So she said, oh, I already signed it. I've got a check taped to the door. Swing on by whenever you're ready to pick it up.
Wow.
So all of a sudden, it went from something where I felt like I feel obligated because of her relationship to work through all this to thinking, okay, this is going to be a fun, cool little project. I can get my guys excited about it. We'll slide it between two other bigger things we're doing. I went out and met with her, started pulling all the specs together, ended up having a meeting with her and her husband, and gave them, we had priced it originally to be built out of kiln dried, salt treated. She said during the pre-construction process that she'd like to consider putting a motorized awning on top of the pergola structure. So by the time we met with her, she and her husband chose to go with rough cut cedar, and chose to go with a motorized awning structure that close to double the size of the project. And all of a sudden, it's close to a $50,000 project. So she's happy. It was a lot more fun to work on. And so that's how we got started. That was the first one. And that was like, wow, no pushback. That was easy. We followed that one up quickly. Existing client who wants to put a gym in their basement and do a few other odds and ends around the house. That one I did not budget, but I just sent them something and said, I'm going to give you this pre-construction agreement with a budget of $1,800. That's budgeted at $125 an hour for this person, a woman in my office who's just going to kind of lead the charge of speccing this out for you. If you move forward, we're going to drop her rate to $75 an hour from $125. And if not, then we've sort of detailed this for you. And again, sent it, signed within minutes, and let you know, great, we want to move forward.
Nice.
So that was 2 for 2. The third, which was maybe almost as valuable, was someone that we had been working with for a little bit of time. Downtown project, kitchen, master bath, pretty big fan project, probably, somewhere in the order of $600,000-$700,000 kind of project. They had been a little bit less than decisive when we worked on the past, and they reached out and said, we're ready for you to come over. by the way, the other contractors who've come in here have told us they needed to get their subs back, before they can give us an estimate, and we've never heard back from them. So maybe when you come, maybe you could just bring those guys. And I wrote them and said, hey, this is a great opportunity for me to explain how we move forward from here. So I'm delighted to come back when you're ready, but it won't be to bring our trade partners. At this time, it would be for me to further explain how we work, show you examples of similar projects we've done for clients like you, give you a very broad brush range of what I think this project might entail and the cost and the timeline. And then at that point, we would sign a pre-construction agreement. And let me tell you that I understand the pain you're feeling of those contractors who you met with and they're not calling you back. I also understand the pain that they're feeling and how they're feeling overloaded and some of the reasons they may not be calling you back. And that's the reason that we move forward with this process. This is, why we believe, we want to give you as much information as we can. But then once you feel good that we're a fit, we feel good that you're a fit, we're going to get you to make an investment in moving the project forward so that we can really detail it for you. And their response at that point was, maybe we're not quite ready for you to come out yet. And frankly, that was another win for us with the pre-construction agreement, because the truth is, if that's how they felt right then, they saved me hours of time, because I otherwise would have gone, maybe in the process, we would have been so good, we wouldn't have been cheap, so if that's what they're looking for, we weren't the right fit anyway. And maybe we would have been so good that they would have said, you know what, you're the guy. But the reality is, given their reaction to the agreement, I have a pretty good feeling I feel good about just backing off there.
Right.
So since then, we now have another pre-construction agreement out on a very historic, architecturally significant and famous home in our market. We've sat down, that customer understands it. They have they are committed to moving forward with us. They're just trying to decide the scope of their job. So that will be our third, and that's a project more in line. The first two were smaller, dollar-wise, smaller than our typical project. This is more in line with our typical. And then we have a fourth that did get signed and did just convert into a contract for a $400,000 kitchen, screen porch, mudroom renovation. Yeah, so right now, we have over $10,000 in pre-construction management fee that we've collected in the last month. And as importantly, we know that the projects we're working to price are projects that we're gonna deliver.
I'm curious, if we go back to the first pre-construction agreement you sent, what was the main thing holding you back, if anything? Like, did you have any reservations, or what was the main thing you were concerned about happening before you hit send on that first pre-construction agreement?
Prior to deciding to do it, I think that I just accepted that that's just the reality of our industry. I just thought, hey, that's just how we've always done it. We tend to bat at a pretty good batting average anyway. And so I just thought, I just didn't think it was possible. I guess I hadn't really thought about it. And then before I did it, I thought, the first one, I thought, man, this is, she's going to laugh at me. I'm asking her to pay $3,500 to do a pre-con on a pergola. It's a pretty significant percentage. We're charging her 12 to 15% of the total project cost up front. But I also thought, I don't really want to work on this pergola. I want to, it's like, this is the price. And to be fair, that price did include me bringing in one of our draftsmen. So, I have receipts out to get something drawn. Mm-hmm. But mostly it was our time, and it was a lot easier for me to get our trade partners then to say, hey, I know this is a small one, but I want you to meet me over here and look at it, because when we finish this job here, we're going to be doing this in mid-October before we jump over to this other one. It's really not a question. I mean, once we knew we had it signed. So, yeah, but I just thought, will people pay for this? And what I've now realized, and what I think the masterclass got me over, was explaining the value. And I didn't see the value maybe before. So, and I tell you, I had a recent conversation. So I got a call from an architect that wanted us to bid a project. And I've often thought, like, okay, so what am I going to do if I get a job I really want, right? And somebody brings it and says, hey, you're one of 2 or 3 guys that we want to look at this. And an architect called me, and, and I said, hey, look, let me explain to you how we work, because it's a little different from last time we went through one of these. So I'd be delighted to meet with any client you have. And I'd love to meet with them. I'd love to tell them about our company. I'd love to actually sit down with you and tell you some of the ways we've enhanced positions at our company, technology at our company, and really what we're doing to bring to take your work and really take that for the customer and deliver for them so they know what they're getting. But what we'll do is we'll do that, but then we're going to sit down and we're going to go through a pre-construction agreement with your client. And for us to move forward, they're going to end up making an investment, of the scope of what they're talking about. I said, hey, that's probably $3,000 or $4,000 investment that they're going to make for us to take that, really take your plans and detail out, all the specs, what do they want? What kind of tile are they using? What kind of siding? We're really going to build this out. And then as long as they move forward, they now have a really good sense of what they're doing, and they know the value that we're bringing. But we don't do free estimates, and the great thing is, so that architect said, man, that sounds really cool. And I'd love to bring you in on another one. This client has frankly, we think the budget, they don't understand the budget, and they're not going to be able to afford the project. All right. So that's not a client I want, right. So I just already saved myself. So then the architect told me, well, we don't actually think, they're looking for the cheapest price. I mean, which they didn't tell me until I said to them, hey, I'd be delighted to meet with them. I just want to explain how this works. This is how we work. And there was no pushback, but they said, all right, this client probably isn't the right client. All right, as far as I'm concerned, that's another win for the pre-construction agreement.
Interesting. So getting to know really quickly is a win, which makes perfect sense, because we've all wasted inordinate amounts of time with tire kickers and time wasters. And if the answer is going to be no, if they're not a good fit, then I say, let's get to that decision as quickly as possible. So you got to that point in minutes instead of hours.
Yeah. And the way I kind of explained it to them, I said, look, we're not spending any less time on estimates than we ever did, but instead of doing 10, we're doing 4. So we're just putting that same amount of time into a much smaller percentage, because we believe that we're giving you a better product when we're done.
Yeah. So if you had to pick one thing that is most valuable to your prospects or to your customers, what's the one thing that you would really hang your hat on and say, this is the biggest value to you as a client, why you want to go through this process?
I think what everybody wants through the whole process of identifying and finding and selecting a contractor, they want to feel confident that they know what they're getting into, right? They want to know, what does this thing look like? What are the pitfalls? But also, like, am I gonna, everybody says, this other time, it's like the contractor would call me and say, oh, by the way, I need your tile by 2 o'clock. Like, I need you to select your tile and the guy's coming today to install it. You know, I mean, these just nightmare scenarios, which we don't, I mean, thankfully we're good at managing that out, and CoConstruct is a big help there, but I think we're, you know, that isn't really an issue for us, but that's a concern that people have. And we're able to just say, this is just where we start to make sure, is it an investment? Yes, it's an investment. And we tell people, we're not in the business to make money on pre-construction agreements. So if you don't think you're going forward, please don't sign this agreement. You know, we're not out trying to sell pre-construction services. We're trying to make sure that we have a good fit with our client and that we're giving you everything you need to move forward with the project. If you're trying to build a $60,000 kitchen, we probably just aren't your contractor. And there are people out there that do that, but so I can just tell you, hey, I can look at this and go, okay, this is a $150 or $250 or $500, whatever $1,000 project, or $30,000 patio or pergola. Here's our number, and it's got some substance behind it. And I think people see that and they go, okay, I'm going to go through this and I'm going to let you know every single one of these is going to be detailed. Mm-hmm. And then you're going to get to the project and you're going to enjoy it because we've got fantastically talented people. We have a great process, and we're going to make sure that your questions are answered. So then when we get into it, you can just relax and enjoy the fact that we're building this project out for you.
Yep. Instead of rushing to keep in front of those phone calls about, hey, you got to pick out your tile by 2:00 because the tile guy's going to be there. Yeah.
They're coming. And I think that's just doing that is one of the biggest fears, I think. I mean, the fear of rush decisions and the fear of not really knowing what things cost. You know, you've thrown some allowance and all of a sudden you say, well, you know, now you've picked out a refrigerator and we didn't know you were going to put a refrigerator in your kitchen. So our allowance wasn't enough. You know, I mean, that's an extreme example, and hopefully we would never do that. But I think that's the concern, right? Actually just hit a 1-year anniversary of sort of the first full-time non-hammer swinging project manager that we hired. And she has a background in interior design and architecture. And she's now doing a lot of the follow-up with trade partners and the build-out. So one nice thing, which I didn't really anticipate, is she went from being almost a pure overhead cost. So with these pre-construction agreements, you know, I'm now actually have revenue that's offsetting her costs. So whereas I thought, hey, this is an investment and it's making my team better and it's giving me more time, but also it's, you know, it's almost pure overhead. The pre-construction agreements are helping to offset that.
What's the next step that you want to improve in your pre-construction process?
I want to get our sales template built out in CoConstruct a little bit better. I have a pre-construction template that I've created, but it sort of requires that I go through that process of dropping in everything to say, this is what it looks like. I want to build out sort of a sales template so I can really just snap a picture of the front of their house, put their name in there and say, boom, this, I can now leverage CoConstruct to walk you through what the pre-construction process with us will look like. So that way I can almost, anybody who calls me and says, you know, hey, I think I might want to work with you, I can just say, thanks for contacting us. Here is something that'll just start walking them through, and then they can self-select and go, this is not for me. And that's what I want. I do not want, I mean, I want to figure out how to get the leads that we have. All of the leads we have are organic, and I want to figure out how to weed 80% of them out. You know, I don't want to, you know, so that's my next step, is how do I automate that to where I can put something in front of people, and let's just say of the 10, if I ultimately want 2, at least 6 of them can go through that and go, hey, this was helpful. but ultimately this isn't the right fit. And I'll tell you, so a little bit of an aside, but I had a client or I had a lead come in 2 weeks ago for a guy that said, I want to renovate my kitchen in my condo, and my budget is $25,000 to $35,000. And I'm sitting at home. It's 9 o'clock at night. And I'm still working through, all the things that we have to do as business owners late at night. And I turned to my wife and I said, how do I even respond to this in a way? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Like, how do I respond to this in a way that this person feels like they leave with a general positive impression of Gardner Construction? They took the time to help me, but this isn't our job. We know this isn't our job, right? So I sent them a message back and said, hey, the way we're structured, while we would love to do this work for you, when a project is less than $100,000, we find that we are just not efficiently structured to deliver it. Because the way that we staff our jobs, we have a dedicated person on your job. We just, for us to do that, someone's going to be able to do it for less money.
Yeah.
And so the person wrote, and I said, but what I recommend, there's a lumber yard in town that's sort of fourth generation. They've been in business since the 1800s. I said, call Sewers Lumber, ask for one of these two people, anybody that's a carpenter or handyman or anybody who's any good. That's where they're going and buying their lumber. And those guys tend to know guys that are really good at handling smaller projects. So that's my recommendation. If I can help you further, let me know. He wrote me back and said, I have one other question. And I answered it. And then he said, oh, by the way, these are the people that referred me to you, which is he had not said, and it's a great client. So I called him and said, just if there's anything I can do, what turns out the guy so I went and, he's the president of a major university in Virginia. And owns, and I went a gorgeous condo. What he's making is publicly available. He's making plenty of money, very successful. Maybe has no idea what things cost, but what I'm trying to do now is like, how can I kind of automate that? Because what I want to do is leave everybody with an impression of, hey, you might not be our client, but I want to try to educate you, give you some resources, help you out, and get you on your way. And then I really want to spend our time, or my time and my team's time, working with the clients that are a really good fit for us. And then I want to blow those people out of the water with the service we provide.
Yep.
But because I took a little bit of time to try to make a connection, it turned out I've met a really fascinating individual, and we actually may end up doing a renovation for him, which that really wasn't my intent. But, it's kind of like somebody that I could very easily have just either not responded to or have just been curt with.
Yeah.
So that's sort of my next step, is how do I leverage these technologies so that I can continue to be a resource, but really try to winnow this thing down from, so all the people coming in. So by the time I'm really spending time on it, it's like these people are pre-screened, and I know it makes sense for us to spend some time with them.
Yeah. Interesting. That's actually something I'm working on right now, is how to automate part of this sales process and indoctrinate people on the pre-construction process, what's in it for them, so that by the time they actually schedule a call or get on the phone with you, they've gone through that indoctrination process. They've self-selected out saying, it's not for me. So I've got some more details on that coming out soon. How is this going to move the needle for you? How is business or life really going to be different now that you're using this pre-construction services agreement process?
I think one big goal is get this machine to the level where I can step back from it a little bit. I can automate it to the point that I can hire people that can, run this through the way that I would if I were or the way that I have in the past, just by meeting with you and handling it, right? So I think I'm still our most finite resource. And so, I'd love to, one, get leverage out of other people, and two, get leverage so that I can focus on the parts of the business that I really love and less on the parts that I can, hopefully get someone else to handle. And that's a goal for me.
Good stuff. Well, I want to be cognizant of your time. I really appreciate the feedback. And, I completely agree about implementation. Get it good enough, ship it. If it's a pre-construction agreement, put something together, send it out, and who knows? It might be signed before you know it. There might be a check taped to the door for you to pick up on the very first one. So
that's right.
Yeah, great stuff, Travis. I really appreciate it, man.
Yeah, thanks, Todd. Look forward to catching up soon.
LL Flooring offers over 400 floors in both the latest styles and timeless looks, from hardwood and laminate to waterproof flooring. There's a floor for any style and every budget. Visit the experts at your local store or go to llflooring.com/pro. These are the floors homes are built on. And if you're wondering, how do I get my potential customers to see the value of paying me for an estimate? Then there are 3 questions you can ask. And I would suggest, my advice for you is don't send out another free estimate until you get these 3 questions. You can watch the free video by going to buildermasterclass.com/script. That's buildermasterclass.com/script. I'm serious. Don't waste another hour or 6 hours or 30 hours doing a free estimate for a tire kicker until you watch that video. Go over to buildermasterclass.com/script and you'll get 3 questions you can ask on your next appointment. One last thing. If you own a construction business and you'd like some help mapping out your strategy for the next 6 to 12 months, set some targets that will really move the needle for you and your business, and you'd like to start to design an execution plan that will help get you there, here's something that might help. You can schedule a free strategy call with me by going over to constructionleadingedge.com and clicking the red button at the top that says schedule a free strategy call. We'll get on a call and do just that. We'll identify some goals that you want to accomplish in the next 6 to 12 months, identify roadblocks, start working from right to left from those goals so that at the end of the call, you've got a pretty good start and a direction on that. And then we can talk about how I can help you going forward if you'd like to do that. Go to constructionleadingedge.com. That's my homepage, my website, and click the red button at the top that says schedule a free strategy call. I'd love to help out. As always, thank you so much for the ratings, the reviews. If you can take a moment and either share this podcast with somebody who would get some value out of it, or if you get value out of it, if you could leave a rating and or a review on the podcast player of your choice, I would really appreciate it. That helps get the word out there. Thank you so much for listening. My name is Todd DeWalt. I'll see you next time.